Welcome to another episode of Cloud Unplugged.
And there was a fallout, and Elon Musk left OpenAI, and there's been a bit of back and forth. It's very bullish. That's the point.
Good. I think he's got a gun for Sam Altman. Salman had to move a life-size cutout of Sam.
Within 1 year, have gone from 1 billion to 14 billion commits. We're not finished ruining the Earth itself, so we started moving into water.
Like, do you know what? Just stop kids going on holiday. Let's just stop all kids going on holiday.
I'm gonna buy one. Why not? It's a Linux-powered flip phone.
Welcome to another episode of Cloud Unplugged. So we have some topics, obviously inspired by the news today. I'll kind of cover them in order that we're going to kind of discuss them. We got the OpenAI's financial leak, so they were going to IPO, and then there was a load of their finances that have managed to get leaked prior to that. SpaceX buying Cursor for 60 bills. Quite epic amount of money. What's happening with cloud capacity at Microsoft because they're running GitHub in Amazon. And also a little bit of a flashback. Commodore is back. New Linux flip phone, basically. So let's get into OpenAI and the financials. I don't know if you've seen this, Salman, that they were kind of leaked. I don't know who leaked them, but there was a guy called Ed Zitron, who's a journalist. He's kind of got his own podcast show, but they were basically given to him somehow. Don't know how. And there were obviously the audits of the financials. They weren't there to be met. I think they were the audits for the IPO. But it showed interesting numbers of like basically money moving back and forth, as in like some of the revenue they made was kind of under revenue from investors. So that was a bit peculiar. They are spending an insane amount of money. I think the operating cost of like 20.2 billion or 20.92 billion or something is what their losses are at the moment. But they're going to be spending more as well. Even though they're making a loss, they're going to spend more on that loss for more capex expenditure on data centers. And then they've like increased their marketing spend by 5 times, and that's like up to £5.73 billion on marketing that they're kind of spending at the moment, which is kind of a little bit wild. Anyway, what do you think to those numbers?
Wow, are these numbers even real, John? What is this? Is this a hallucination? These
are the real numbers. So these are the real numbers that kind of indicate, obviously, the I mean, we spoke about in the last podcast episode about all the hype, but we don't mean necessarily the technology hype, because the technology is sound, but obviously the valuation hype, and I guess the mind share that they're all trying to get of everybody by just talking about mythos and all fable. It's there, it's not there, and so it's like a constant AI washing almost constantly in the media. But whilst all that's happening and all the hype's there, obviously the valuation is inflated whilst all that's happening. And then this is kind of the truth in the end. The numbers get leaked, and then you really see, well, the demand isn't really there to warrant that valuation.
Yeah, I think we just have to be a little bit careful with the numbers that show. But again, it's a leak, so we don't know how accurate the leak is. Within the same leak, one of the numbers that came out was that the company is getting more efficient and at posting losses. So in 2024, they spent $2.37 for every dollar of revenue. So there's a lot of losses. But in 2025, they were down to $1.60 for every dollar of revenue. And 2026, the numbers, again, you could choose if you want to believe, is down to $1.20 for every dollar spent. Right? That's what they $1.20. Now, all companies, John, that we know when they start, they operated at a loss. Like
True.
Uber, when they started, they operated at a loss. So much so that even now, especially with these LLM companies, we talked about GPT-4 costing around 100 million to just train and make it available. So yes, the numbers are out. Yes, they show that the company is operating at a loss, but so do most tech companies. Alphabet, Meta, in the beginning, they do operate at a loss. Now, the the reason why they got leaked, again, if they got leaked, perhaps just so you and I can talk about it on this podcast, John, or others can talk about on this podcast, just to get their name out even more. To even people are asking the question: is this company of any value? Of like the valuation that's been given is good marketing for the company itself, right? So I don't know if seeing these numbers, the headline numbers that they are presented, does it mean anything for us? Perhaps not.
You think
Maybe
this is good
continue.
marketing?
I think it's good
Or,
marketing
oh, really? You think bad numbers are good
because
marketing?
because then people will ask a question: what is Anthropic doing? What is Mistral doing? What are the other companies doing? So again, is this bad? I don't necessarily think this is bad. Is it? Spending money in the company, it's the same history. In history, we've seen all companies lose money in the beginning. Now, okay, how much you're losing is a lot in this case, of course. I don't know what the comparison is to Uber. I don't necessarily think this is too much of an issue.
I don't think it's too much of an issue, but I think what it showed though is the money movement. So
No.
9% of the revenue came from Microsoft and SoftBank, which are obviously investors in the company. So you've got money moving between other companies that are also investors back into the company that they're invested in, that then inflates obviously the amount of revenue. So when I think it's more things like that, and then all of the R&D money, which you kind of expect, that was kind of spent. And I think then they've invested in Microsoft, obviously, for their expenditure for the compute and things like that for OpenAI, and that money's then kind of returning back. So it's just oddity of the flow of where all the capital's going back and forth, and then the revenue is kind of part of that capital, which is not normal. Obviously, revenue you'd expect to be based on the things you are selling, not selling them to the companies that are already invested in you. But yeah.
But if they have invested in you, but if they're selling a service to Microsoft, for example, Microsoft is, you can go into Azure and start using OpenAI models, and company as an organization will also use the OpenAI models, right? If the revenue is that, if that's where the revenue is coming from, I think that's legit, no problem whatsoever, right? Because they're selling a service. I don't know about SoftBank, John.
Okay, interesting.
I think so. Maybe SoftBank is using their models. Maybe they are using. I have no idea about SoftBank.
I knew Sam has got to you, isn't it? I just knew it. I saw you. I just knew this was happening.
I told you, John.
It's just what I'd let everyone know, that before we even started this podcast, Salman had to move a life-size cutout of Sam from behind that he had to take out of shot of the video before we started this podcast. So, I mean, whether he's independent and there isn't a bias, I'm not really sure. But
but John, just humor me for a minute. We've seen this money move around between the same companies a lot, right? True. Nvidia investing in OpenAI investing in, this money is just moving around. At the end of the day, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win at the end of the day?
Well, we all know it's going to be Anthropic, right?
Yeah, the big OpenAI is also going to get a share. Anthropic is also going to get a share. Nvidia is also going to get a share, because the issue at the moment is, yes, this technology, LLM technology, is improving. That doesn't need as much compute that it needed in 2024 to be able to train and to be able to do inference. The chips are now getting designed specifically for training and inference for these LLM models, right? So that it's definitely going to get a bit more. Yes, it still costs a lot of money, but the people who are going to lose out is that the reason why this costs is because this training takes a lot of money. But then, all these companies are moving LLMs to usage-based fee now. So instead of giving you like credits, I think what's going to happen is the end users will end up paying a lot more for these services, because what the companies realize, okay, we're operating at a loss. We need to adjust our prices to reflect how much it actually costs. So people who will lose out is I don't necessarily think that means losing out. It's the same model every company uses. Uber, when they came in, they were much cheaper. They used to give more money to the drivers, but now they don't. Now they
Yeah,
take
but
about 40 to
I think though
50%.
the difference in this though is just the amount of money that we're talking about. Like this isn't like 500 grand here or like a couple of million over there. We're talking like billions, that most companies aren't even valued at this amount. So you could buy an insane number of companies for that amount of money that's kind of going that they're talking about here, which is all kind of fictitious to a degree. So, it's not like it's evidenced hugely on the capital expenditure. So that's the bit that's a little bit warped, because if you look at it through a market lens, its own market, it's all quite, on the up. The taxi market or the car hiring market, less so, or the delivery market probably less, comparatively less so, because it's more stabilized. But I do know what you mean. Obviously, companies that start have to obviously make a lot of expenditure to kind of grow their foothold in those markets. But they're spending 5 billion on marketing. 5 billion on marketing. That's the cost of like most companies, and you're spending 5 billion on marketing in a market to then get, like, how much are you going to get back from 5 billion expenditure? What's the ROI on 5 billion on your token usage? Like, what are you actually going to get for that? What's the business model that allows you to know you can, if I spend 5 billion on marketing, I'm going to get how much back as an ROI on that marketing?
Yeah, this is hard, right? Because 5 billion in marketing seems quite a lot. But then these companies are taking out Super Bowl ads and videos every day on whatever's coming up. But yeah, 5 billion in marketing definitely sounds a lot. But John, these companies are in a different ballpark now. We're talking about companies with a lot of backing. So them spending 5 billion is like other companies spending 500K. So I don't know. AI has got to me, John. The numbers don't seem real, but I'm in
AI
for a
got
ride.
to, yeah. I just think
It's got to me.
it's you know because it can't be quantified at the moment because it's so new. We don't know how people are going to make their money back. What the services are going to be. Obviously, money has been made. They are making money. They said they've made 10 billion. Oh no, they had a 10 billion target, but I think
Yeah.
they made 13 billion. So obviously they are making money, and that's a very high revenue. So, but it is, yeah, it does feel a little bit on the hype comparative to kind of other markets, but a little bit mental to me that amount of capital has just been spent with all the other things kind of going on. But yeah,
But I think John, the hype is there because the market is way bigger than it was for Uber, let's just say. Right? Let's take that as an example.
true.
And the market is way bigger than it was for cloud. Yes, we have companies, okay, we can talk about the cloud era as well when it all became cloud native. Of course, everybody needed to use, not everybody, companies who wanted to host the services, they will tend towards cloud, right? So you had all these companies pop up. But with these models, John, everybody can use a model. Anybody
True.
who has access to a device can use a model. I know people in healthcare that use this model for various reasons, right? And I know people who are not even like barbers, they're using these models to come up with some designs and whatnot.
Barbara or
Peop-
barbers? A person you talk.
barbers,
Oh, barbers, not
barbers.
Barbara. All the Barbaras,
Bar-
all of the Barbaras out there today. If your name's
they're
Barbara,
using they're using Claude.
100% you are using the model.
They're
Absolutely right.
using model, and then
Yeah,
and people are spinning up their own websites. They're doing their own design for their logos and running their businesses. So I think the market is way bigger for this than it was for anything I have seen myself. Right, and I'm just talking about my time. So I hate to say this, John, but you're right. AI has got to me. AI has got to me, but I think that's why the numbers are too big. That's why they want to spend that 5 billion, because they think they can get a bigger share of the market. And the competition is tough against OpenAI because you're up against Anthropic, who really is leading the market, right? Anthropic is leading the market, and hence why people say, why did the models got banned? I'm not saying anything, John, but
yeah, we
maybe
can't
this
be
got
right.
something to do with it.
Yeah, I don't really go in an Anthropic whilst you're a big advocate for OpenAI.
I'm not an advocate for OpenAI. I'm not an advocate for Anthropic.
No, we get it. We know where your alliances lie, but yeah, I don't know the B2C aspect of it all. I don't think most people are like building websites and doing all these things. I think they're uploading pictures and then being like, "Can you, I don't know, put long hair on me, or can you do this thing?" Or like, so the cost though of all those tokens, like the general consumer B2C at the moment, like you're saying, it's a bit like the Uber. How sustainable that's going to be on the capex, I don't even know. Like whether you'll even make a return on that cost. How much are you going to price those plans at based on the cost of the capex to get your money back? Like, what's the volume of consumption? Because the average person that's using it at the moment, it's affordable. But when it doesn't become affordable, obviously people can't use it and won't be able to have the money to use it. Also, let's be honest, they won't be able to use it because they don't have a job. I'm joking, because they've all been taken by AI. So that was being facetious, Jesus. But yeah. I still think it's a little bit out there. I feel it's definitely, there's a market for it. Yes, it's a little bit more universal, but the same as all websites need cloud computing to host, isn't that much different for like new services needing models to do features. I don't think it's that like radically different necessarily, or like some market that is that differential, because obviously to run things, Netflix, to get those services that you got deliver or require internet or require cloud. You wouldn't say that those markets are like $8 trillion big and all these other things, So it seems a little bit inflated, but
but that's market for you, right, John? There's it runs on sentiment. The sentiment behind this technology is very bullish. That's the point, and that's why all these numbers seem conflated. But what are these numbers? Are they even real? I don't know, John. I'm just here for the ride.
Well, we know where your sentiment lies. That's for sure. So we move on. Shall we move on to the SpaceX purchase of Cursor as well, which was also a bit of a curveball, but quite smart, I think, really, by Elon in kind of trying to get into the code area and to be kind of more of a competitor to OpenAI and Anthropic and others. So it does kind of make sense. But 60 billion, obviously, of stock, SpaceX stock, to acquire Cursor. Cursor being obviously there for helping developers write code. They have their own model. They extended the IDE for VS Code. What did you think about that acquisition?
Well, first of all, John, let's start with this. The SpaceX IPO'd last week before. The initial the SpaceX 1 trillion, right? The IPO, the share price started at $160, and it shot up to 200 within a day, right? $200, and now it's settled down to like 182, 185. So before we even talk about Cursor, the IPO for SpaceX was a success because it didn't go down below the initial the IPO price. And it doesn't, SpaceX doesn't just include SpaceX itself. It also includes Starlink. It also includes XAI, John. So now some of these moves are of course being done to increase their their footprint, because we have a player, Anthropic, in cloud development, in development LLMs, and we also have OpenAI. But then really there's no other. So because now SpaceX have that capital, I think it's good for them. Well, that's what's happening. They're taking a bet on $60 billion that you said, right? Now, Cursor, as we know, is a developer platform that people can use to use any models they like. And I think, John, at the moment, Cursor spends a bunch of their revenue to Anthropic. Is that correct? Like Anthropic do charge some of that because they use the Anthropic models, Claude. Is that right?
Oh, I didn't actually know that. I don't know. Is that right? I didn't know that bit. I know they have their own model called Composer, or that was like what they built.
But you can also Yeah, you can also use it. So I think the idea here is that Cursor is SpaceX is gonna. I don't know if they have they bought it yet, or is it still in process of buying?
I thought they had bought it, yeah, but
Okay.
maybe I assumed they had bought it. But yeah, I think it's to take. I reckon it's to take down OpenAI. I think. I reckon he's going to
Yeah,
try and
fair
gun.
enough.
I think he's going. I think he's going to gun for Sam Altman, and that
Yeah,
comes.
so I think that's a fair point because Elon Musk and Sam Altman, they started OpenAI, and there was a fallout, and Elon Musk left OpenAI, and there's been a bit of back and forth. But I think then we probably will see that Grok models will be competition for the models by OpenAI and Anthropic, because right now Grok models exist, but they don't have a massive user base. People who are using X use those models.
Yeah,
Developers don't use those models. Where do developers live? Well, they live in Cursor at the moment, right? And that's one of the toolings people use for these models. So perhaps it is to capture that developer market, just so they can. I think you were probably right. They're gunning for OpenAI and Anthropic, not just OpenAI, both of them, because this is a huge market. So they did quite well with the SpaceX IPO, but they probably will do way better. Now it's just market play. You're in the IPO. Now you have to keep making moves that the market is going to like, and the sentiment's going to increase. It'll get better. So I think this is a reasonable move for SpaceX to make. Now you're going to tell me that Elon's got me too. SpaceX has got me too. But I'm just talking from market sentiment, right? I'm not saying that this is right or this is wrong. I'm just talking about the market sentiment. If you're running this company, you want to increase your market share and you want to increase your market cap, what would you do? And this is where the hot topic is at the
but do you
moment.
not think though? I mean, obviously for him, it didn't really mean very much. I think it was like 3% equity,
Yeah,
essentially, of SpaceX. That's kind of what he's given up to then acquire Cursor. So obviously, it hasn't really cost anything necessarily per se. But Claude Code, I think, is like 46% of the market. I think Cursor had 19%. It was still growing because I think, like you said, the market was massive. But I have a funny feeling, though. I mean, I knew a lot of people that started on Cursor who've then moved over to Claude Code, and a lot of people that were using Cursor but actually just using the Claude Code terminal, just using it as an IDE, and then stopped paying for Cursor because they weren't really using their model anymore. And I imagine that trajectory will probably increase. And a lot of even like today, a lot of the customers we work with, all I've ever heard is Claude Code more than Cursor. I don't hear anybody saying, "Hey, how can I roll out Cursor safely?" And what's the process for that? It seems to be because Anthropic's more a general model, not just a
yeah,
development, dev tooling centric. Obviously, it makes more sense to have an agnostic approach to everything. For development, for your business, for your agentic services, for you don't. So I don't know. It felt like an odd thing, unless he's got desires to make the same his model, which is obviously the thing. It's obvious to use that skill to get XAI's model to be also a universal model for everything as well, and help train it on lots of different things, I presume.
but John, you're forgetting some things that we will never have the information to decide how to make our own opinion, right? Yes, Claude is all the rage today, but is it going to be all the rage tomorrow?
Here
We
we
don't
go.
know,
Here we
right?
go.
That's
Anti-anthropic every time.
no, I'm just talking about this, right, John? Listen,
Which is
listen.
why everybody needs to use OpenAI. God's sake, everyone.
No, but remember, John, last week what happened? The new model came out, Fable. Everybody lost their mind. I lost my mind. I was like, wow, this thing is amazing. Next morning, I woke up, bam, model's not available in your country because you're not an
Yeah.
American citizen, right? So why was that banned? I don't know, John. But also at the same time, it doesn't. The tokens for Fable were really expensive. That model is super expensive. If you come out as Cursor featuring XAI and your token consumption, because token consumption is a problem now. right?
Mhm.
Things are getting really expensive. And if you can somehow say, you know what, this model is going to cost, maybe it's going to be even a bit cheaper than what Anthropic model is, perhaps you can get some people in your, you can get some of the market share. So all I'm saying, John, is that I'm not anti any company. I'm not anti Anthropic. But what's happening today is what not necessarily is going to happen tomorrow. So I think it's a good gamble, in my opinion. I'm calling it a gamble, but it's a business decision because SpaceX valuation is 2 trillion, and as you said, what 60 billion is well, roughly 3% of the equity slice. I mean, and
Yeah.
if imagine if you spend 60 billion, you end up getting 200 billion. Why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
exactly.
Because you've got the space side covered. You already have XAI, which is like the X and the Grok, perhaps increasing that. But that's it'll be interesting to see what happens in future.
Do you
But
think
the
you will
good thing,
manage to achieve building the data centers out in space and then running those models out in space and then using Starlink to then obviously stream back down? And do you reckon that's the
yeah. So even in their own IPO papers, they said there's a lot of challenges around running this, right? So when the papers came out,
there's a lot of challenges, but it was a lot of challenges with SpaceX. Really, to be fair, like everyone
that's
thought,
fair. Yeah.
it's like to be able to do that and to land back down and be so precise, and all those challenges and make it that cheap. And yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
think I
it's
think
cheaper.
technically no, it's true. It's true, but the problem is well, it's not a problem, but there's a slight difference because yes, making it reusable was amazing, but I think there's like radiation is a problem as well up in space. But I think the reason why SpaceX was successful is because SpaceX needed that technology to send the satellites out there to land people on the moon, right? But data centers, there's still a lot of land that needs to be explored. We talked about you can run your data centers in the ocean, and I know, John, that you want to swim next to a data center in a sea. I know that's one of
Yeah, I
your
love it. Yeah, I
bucket
love
list
that.
items. So I don't know if they will focus on running data centers in space because you want to run some stuff on Earth first. When you run out of space, then perhaps.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to look at it, isn't it? Like, let's really the best way to align everybody to building data centers in space or just space in general is to ruin Earth first. Like, if we can get everybody aligned on that, if we can ruin it first, then we all want to go to space. We're like
Oh
all
yeah,
on board. We're all aligned on that vision. We're like, yeah, I mean, who wants to live here now? It's totally destroyed. At least we then share a common vision of like, how do we support SpaceX in getting us to space now that we've, destroyed Earth? I suppose it becomes a common. Maybe we can get us a hotel there as well. So
I
you're
mean,
all begging Elon, you're like, get us off this planet.
you,
Get me a
you
seat on SpaceX. Get me off this planet. We'll get you into your flying Tesla. You know. So yeah, that's
you you're not wrong, John. Amazon came out last week. Well, actually, yeah, they came out last week and they said their data centers use about 2.5 billion gallon liter of water. Billion gallons liter of water. That's 2.5.
mental.
And same with I think Google had similar numbers, and I mean a little bit less or whatnot. So you're right. We are ruining the earth. I think they are saying that they want to become by 2030 water positive, as in like they don't waste the water more than they use. But yeah, this is becoming the efficiency. This high,
Water
we're already
positive.
ruining it, right? We're already ruining
What, like body positive? You
it.
become water positive.
Water
Um,
positive, John.
yeah. And what about this? What about this Microsoft capacity issue where it's actually having to run GitHub in Amazon? What have you got to say about that?
So, John, we're talking about ruining the earth, right? We need capacity because we're making so many data centers. We're not finished ruining the earth itself, so we started moving into water with data centers in water, hopefully coming soon, and then maybe space as well. But
Yeah.
here's the problem. So, GitHub, our favorite source control solution, one of our favorite source control solution, in 2018, Microsoft bought it. And they said by 2027, we'll fully migrate it to Azure, right? Because
Yeah.
they were running some stuff in AWS
But they've still
before.
got a year.
Yeah, they still got it.
Yeah, they've got a
Here,
year. Yeah.
so here is everything's related, John, because So they were running this stuff. They were fine. They were on track to move on to AWS or move on from AWS to Azure. But your favorite company, Anthropic and OpenAI, came into the picture. And they told developers, oh, in 2025, you committed 1 billion commits of code. That's cool, but let's have a bit more slop, right? Not just a bit more, 14 times more slop in our
Are you talking?
repositories than we had before.
I feel like you're aiming this at me and my PRs or something. It feels really personal. The way you directed that felt really like an attack on me, actually, a little bit there.
I'm coming to John.
Have you been reviewing my code or something?
I've been reviewing your. I've been reviewing your
hell, I knew
code,
it.
right? I've been reviewing your code. So the code commits within 1 year have gone from 1 billion to 14 billion commits, right? So the scale is massively increased, and there were a lot of issues you might be aware of, like GitHub going down because of the scale. Was the kind of not predicted that it's going to be at that scale. So basically, what's happening is at this scale, Microsoft do need extra capacity to run this. And hence why they're like, okay, you know what? We do need to maybe stick with a bit of AWS because we're getting all these outages. We're running out of capacity. So this is a bit of a problem that this is being produced because of all these bots commits that are coming, not just developer assisted commits, but also agents committing code themselves. So this is a bit of a problem for Microsoft because GitHub is losing a bit of market share. And the point here is that this is an architecture lesson that even your own cloud isn't infinitely elastic on demand. And multi-cloud is sometimes a reasonable solution. And that's what Microsoft is saying themselves. Oh, maybe we need to be multi-cloud. I mean, but that scale is completely bonkers, right? 14 billion commits and a bunch of other things are happening. So this is so that's what's happening, John. All of these things are related with each other, and perhaps you're right. We do need those satellite data centers. They're flying around.
Do you reckon they're going to put the price up then? Do you reckon GitHub, because of the cost to them on hosting now, will put the price up of GitHub? Surely they must do, because the amount of the cost to what's the margin on all of that? Now they're going, especially if they're bursting into Amazon, they've got to pay Amazon for all that compute. It'd be interesting to see if they put the prices up.
Prices up for GitHub Enterprise, prices up for Copilot. Yeah, I think there's going to be an adjustment, John, for sure. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? No idea, but inflation is also kicking in, as always. So the price will only go up, I guess. But this is a bit of an issue. But the thing is that this is the reflection point. We've seen AI infrastructure on demand is really increasing a lot. But we do need a bunch of that scale. It's not just for training the models, John, right? It's not just for those tools that are going to give you all that slop, but it's also for when you produce all that code, where you host it, where it runs. So the demand is only going to go up, John. I think we should change and go into data center technology, John. I think that's what we need to do.
We need to get into chips. Not potato chips, obviously. GPU chips. We need to get into chips and data centers. You're right. That's where we need to do. Oh, we can get into the other technology that who was it? NVIDIA had, where you can strap it to your house. Basically, just like a mini data center strapped to the side of your house. That's the way forward. Yeah, or like a solar paneled data center on the roof of your house or something. Maybe everything's compute. But what about this Commodore? Commodore is back, not the Commodore 64. This is the Commodore flip phone. That has come back. Yeah, running Android. Are you going to buy one?
I'm going to buy one. Why not? It's a Linux powered flip phone. It costs around $500, right? So it prevents. This is the kicker, right? It prevents social media app installation. John, I know it's not going to work for you because you won't be able to install TikTok.
I'm out.
Right?
Yeah, I'm out.
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
But this sounds really good. It's got a 48 megapixel camera. This will now become tech reviewers now, John, right? So that's what we're talking about. But the point here is that with UK government deciding that we need to ban social media for under 16s, right? I don't know what your take on that is. I agree with it. Plus, I'm not under 16, so it's okay for me.
Do you
But
agree with it? That surprises
I
me.
agree with it.
I
I agree with it.
I agree with the fact that generations have grown up without social media, and I think that was probably a positive thing. But I don't necessarily agree with the cop out of not forcing companies to legislate against protecting people on the platform. It feels like the people penalised for the issues is now the children, rather than making the adjustments in the right places to those platforms to begin with. It feels like they kind of got, I don't know, it feels like there's going to be bypassing, and they've kind of got, the people are going to get around it, and the cultures have shifted, right? We're just talking about AI, we're talking about bloody rockets, we're talking about data centers in space. Like, the world isn't quite the same. People are swimming next to data centers. So, everything's kind of altering. Social media has been a big part of that, for good or for bad. Probably more bad than good, I would say. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But they could have adjusted it, though, and made it more safe somehow, and got them to change it and legislate, not be like, well, I suppose, it'd be like going on holiday. Somebody dies from alcohol poisoning, and they're like, do you know what? Just stop kids going on holiday. Let's just stop all kids going on holiday. Nobody goes abroad until you're 18. We can't have, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's such an extreme view to the problem. So
yeah, because John, that's because fair enough. That's because the government legislation, they've been asking the companies to add in more guardrails. They do add guardrails, like these companies, Instagram and Snapchat or whatever, that you need to be of a certain age, and that before you can log in. But it's kind of hard to police that. How would you stop anybody not, like, I can pick your phone, John, if I know your passcode, and I can pretend it's you, or log in using your credentials. People will work your way around. I think there's you can argue both ways. I agree with what you're saying, but I think a blanket ban is probably better, because there's so much rubbish on social media nowadays, and the pressure that it puts on the teenagers onto doing specific things, following specific trends. Australia did it, right? They started that a few months ago. I think it'll be good to see what happens. But I agree.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that's why
I have respect for, like, making a decision, and actually coming down again on a line against something that is like maybe not healthy for kids, and just generally their state of mind. I kind of agree with that, but it just feels like the wrong answer to the problem to me. But anyway,
John, let me finish with this, right? So UK government mandates that everybody under 16 has to go to school. Agreed? That's a mandate. Everybody under 16 has to have an education. So
you could be homeschooled, though, can't you?
You can be homeschooled, correct? But you have to be schooled. But that homeschooling is by exception.
Yeah.
So are we saying that when the government puts in a rule that says everybody has to go to school, don't do it. Let parents decide. Let the figure out how to do it. But here's the thing, though. If a child says, "I don't really feel like going to school," well, you have to go to school because the government says you have to go to school. Otherwise, they're going to put you in jail. So now it's become a lot easier for parents. If they say, "Oh, can I have a Snapchat account?" Well, but actually, you can't.
Did you think people weren't going to school before that mandate? Is that what the problem was? Yeah, everybody, because you'd be walking around, no one's at school. Do you remember that? When you used to walk around, everybody, all the schools were empty. Do you remember those days?
Schools are empty.
All the schools were empty. All the kids were just out on the streets. And then the government came along and were like, you need to be at school. And then everyone started to go to school. I mean, that's not what happened. Like, they didn't need to mandate it. There wasn't really a problem, I don't think. It was like, what was it for? Like, whatever percentage. It seems a bit like, I mean, bizarre to me, even mandating going to school. It seems a little bit silly because, I don't think that was.
So you're a homeschool kind of guy. Is that what
I'm a homeschool kind of person? I'm a social media. I believe that people should upskill on social media. The best way to get educated is to just get TikTok and to get Instagram, and you just scroll and you learn through scrolling. And the more you can scroll, the more you tend to learn. That's what's got me where I am today, Salman. Without social media and scrolling, I wouldn't be here where I am today.
Welcome to Commodore. Diary of a CEO. When Jon tells how you got here. Excellent.
Yeah, I didn't go to school. It was all social media then. That's how I upskilled. But yeah, anyway, Commodore 64. Cool. You're going to get one.
It looks really cool. It's a funky screen. It's like blue in color.
We'll never hear from you ever again once you've got one, no. I think.
But it doesn't have social media, so that's good. Right? Yeah. So I can't be on TikTok.
I don't know.
Cool.
Anyway, until next time, I think the next one we're going to pick a topic and dig into it a little bit more. We kind of been doing that anyway, a little bit on these news articles, but I think we'll probably go a bit deeper into something more specific going on in the industry on the next episode. But yeah, we shall speak to everybody next time. See you later.